How's it going, everyone? Welcome to episode 242 of the Bench Time Podcast with Todd and Brett.
Whoa, 242?
204. Why did I say that? We're going to leave that in. I don't know what I was even looking at. I even have it written in front of me. Whatever.
Oh my God.
We're going to redo the intro.
No, we're going to leave that in. That's a doozy.
Yeah.
Welcome to episode 204 of the Bench Time Podcast. And as you may have heard, we have some special guests on our show. We got Frank and Natalie Saladino from Mud Creek Models. So I appreciate you guys coming on. It's been a while since we've had a guest, too, so we're excited.
Yeah.
We appreciate you having us. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure our guests are going to appreciate not hearing our voice completely for the next hour or so, because that's normally they just hear us blabbering. But let's kind of dig into your backgrounds, both of you guys, in how you got into just working with model railroading and being in model railroading, and then also, like my dad had told you guys before our intro, what brought on Mud Creek Models and kind of the whole origin story here.
Okay. I started with N-scale model railroading probably when I was 16 or 17 years old when I went to a Christmas display at a bank. It was a tree lighting.
Huh.
And they had modules set up inside the bank. And everybody was invited in to see them. And I enjoyed the size of it, the way everything looked, the detail in the product, and everything was awesome. So I got started in N-scale model railroading, and I've been doing it on and off ever since.
Okay. That's rare that you see an N-scale layout anyways. Like, it's not very common you see N-scale, so it's cool that was like what you saw.
On a display like that,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had set it up in a long hallway. It was a big atrium area. It was in a hallway, and they had probably about 125 modules, all in a large oval, for people to walk by and take a look. And that was it for me. I was hooked on that. Plus, my grandfather was a heavy modeler. He was into radio control planes.
Okay.
He used to build those from scratch. And
wow.
I was always into modeling in one way, shape, or form or the other.
Right. And now I have not done a lot of N-scale modeling, but when I first started modeling before Brett was born, this has been 40 years. I started with an HO, of course, and I was living in a small apartment with my wife, and I tried to get my younger brother into the modeling as well, and he got N-scale, and he didn't stick with it very long. At the time back then, there was N-scale, and he did it because he had even less room than I did. But at the time, the N-scale stuff was mainly plastic buildings, small plastic buildings, not very detailed. They had some were a little nicer than others, and then of course your trains and your track and stuff, and he made a decent looking little layout out of it, but the buildings weren't there, not the Craftsman type kit structures. So to see what you do, and I'm not going to try and jump ahead here or let you get back into it, but it's this N-scale has gone in a big direction, in a big way. It's really grown over all those years, from what I've seen. And
back when your brother was into it, locomotives sounded like coffee grinders, for God's sake.
You're not lying, huh?
Yeah, that's very true. They were very loud. They weren't very detailed at the time, but yeah, I remember.
I don't think they were very precision mechanically either on the tracks. I mean, don't get me wrong, they did okay. They weren't to the science that they are now, and
exactly. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, my dad also and my uncle probably saw the first train ever. No, I'm kidding. That was an age joke. I'm sorry, Dad.
Yeah, thanks. But it's so when you started building, you built a layout and N-scale when you were in high school, or is that when it was?
I started building a layout. It was actually in my bedroom when I was in high school. It was a 2 foot by 4 foot tiny little thing that was made with flour and water and paper towels for mountains and cheap acrylic paints that your mother didn't want anymore, and from when she used to paint, and it just spawned from there. I mean, trees were nothing more than twigs from the backyard and cotton balls painted green.
Right.
So, but it continued to grow from there. And then as time went on, I was, kind of grew with the hobby in N scale anyway, and it turned out to get more and more exciting for me as time went on, only because there was the introduction of highly detailed plastic injected molded shells. Cato, I think, was the first one to introduce that in N scale. And what they were doing at the time was they were rivaling or competing with brass manufacturers, it looked like, to me anyway. But today's N scale kits, I would put them up against any HO scale or N scale brass piece. They're just so much more detailed, so much more to scale. Yep. And the plastic, the injection molding these days is just phenomenal.
Right. Well, and if they do, they look amazing. The N scale models of today are just for the trains themselves are absolutely gorgeous, and I think that's I think they can, because they're able to do so much more with the plastics and the smaller the scale. I think sometimes you can draw out greater detail or shape or dimension that way.
I agree 100%. Agree 100%. Yep.
So where did you go from there to building Craftsman kits? Because I mean, what you've really done is blown the world away with N scale Craftsman kits. But before you got to that point, were you building scratch built N scale kits or N scale buildings and such?
My primary, for lack of a better term, supplier was when I started in the hobby, and as time went on, if I wanted to build a Craftsman kit, that Craftsman kit was Bar Mills. Art and his team produced many beautiful kits through the years, and they still do today. But right. Most of the Craftsman kits I did were Bar Mills. A lot of it was scratch built, because there wasn't much out there from a wood kit standard for N scale model trains. Other than Bar Mills and a couple other, vendors. Every vendor that back then, and I'm going back, 25, 30 years.
Sure.
They were basically HO scale, because HO scale was the
most popular.
Thank you. The most popular.
Yeah, it was kind of the standard for a long, long time. It just was kind of the standard. Exactly, everyone had it.
Yeah. So, from there, I just from scratch building and building the model kits from Bar Mills and other manufacturers that their name eludes me at this time. But, it got to a point where, I wanted something better for the hobby back then, and right. I couldn't, I honestly couldn't find it out there other than Bar Mills, and I just decided to start scratch building, and found out that I loved scratch building more than I did, running trains and building structures. So it started to spawn from there.
Nice. Now, my next question is, because Natalie's been quiet over here, we had to give her some questions here.
Go.
But
now she's smiling, she's starting to sweat.
Yes. There's no pressure, no pressure. We're gonna actually start with a question about Frank, but we're gonna have Natalie answer it. So obviously you were building these models before you guys had met, I'm sure. Now, when you met Frank, were you kind of like, oh, all right, I'm into this. Like, this is kind of cool. This is neat that he builds these things. Or, were you already into model building? Have you done that before? Were you into crafts prior to that? Or, like, what kind of brought you into the model building scene? It's not, real quick though, it's not often we get the perspective of the spouse on here. So this will be fun too.
Prior to meeting Frank, I had no interest in model railroading at all. It wasn't even something that had come into my perspective or my sight at all. Once Frank and I met and I saw what he was able to do with models, I did get interested in it. When we moved in together, he had a small shelf layout in our house that he built, and it was beautiful. And I was buying models for him. We went to train shows, and it piqued my interest in it. When we moved into our current home, that was when we both sat down and said, you can do this so much better than some of the manufacturers out there.
Mm-hmm.
And we as a team decided that we were going to try this and see what we could do to produce the level of models that he was scratch building.
Okay. So you were kind of like, all right, let's do this. So I'm going to be a little bit of a pusher on this and kind of get the, add some grease to the wheels here and get it moving.
Correct.
Awesome.
And then we sat down and we put our funds together and we said, okay, let's see what we can do. And we started very, I'd say, rough, right?
Uh-huh.
Real rough. Oh, yeah, it was rough.
That's everyone's like origin story in any business, though.
Well, we started cutting our first kits with a Cricut machine that we had purchased, and I learned how to run. And then I would say after we manufactured our third kit, right, is when we said, let's buy a laser.
Yep.
And Frank opened the box and put it together and put it on my desk and said, here, babe, you need to learn how to do this.
What a guy!
Natalie sounds like you're the IT person then. You're the IT person for the laser and the Cricut.
I do all of the laser programming and
Oh, wow.
all of the laser cuts for our kits. I put all the boxes together, design the labels. I put the kits and the contents in the boxes. Frank does all of the designing, and he does all of the builds and all of our 3D printing. So
Gotcha.
between the two of us, we run our business together.
Okay. Well, it's neat that you guys both have like your own departments, which is cool.
Well, we
what a
cross over,
team.
When we need help, he'll go, here, take the screws off of these, or I'll go, here, I need help putting, these kits together. We got an order to fill, so.
Trust me, gentlemen, it's not always a happy ordeal.
Hey, I could only imagine. We're all
I couldn't
married.
even do it.
Yeah, we're
No
all.
way I could do it.
We're all.
My wife, but I couldn't do that. I don't know.
We're all married in here, and we all love our spouses, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It'd be business with one of them, though. That's business with my wife. That'd be interesting. But it does also, it gives you guys something creative to work on together too, which is probably rewarding. You can do it at your own pace, and you can create some really cool stuff. Which even just looking through your website, like the things you've built, and even on your Facebook page, and obviously we've been friends on Facebook for a lot, and we see your builds and stuff that you guys have. Like, it's cool that not only you get to do that at home, but like you were at that show this past weekend together, and you get to travel and you get to just do all that together, which is probably very rewarding at the same time.
Pretty cool. It is pretty cool.
100%. We enjoy the entire aspect of our business together.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There's times where we want to kill each other. There's pressure, and there's, we need to get this done, and, but we both work full time on top of this. So sometimes, the pressure is on to get something out as fast as possible.
Yeah. And
that's where, we're both butting heads and saying, but, I need you to do this. I'm doing this.
So,
and the rewarding. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, to add to her, it doesn't help when a fat guy like me wants dinner on the table and she's in the middle of cutting something.
Oh. Boy. Yeah, I'm not even touching that. No.
I know better.
Hopefully you're not saying, "Hey, where's dinner?" While she's busy working on their stuff, because I think I would be sleeping on the sofa.
Oh no, not me.
Yeah, okay. Now I know for a fact.
Likely, hey, is there any plan for dinner tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
But see, that's the question that gets every man in trouble, no matter what. If you're in business or not with your wife, if I ask that same question and she just got home with running the kids around, I would also be in the doghouse. So And it's happened. She comes in. I've been sitting on the recliner since I got home, and she's like, just coming in the door with the kids. And sometimes I'll make the mistake of saying, "Hey, what are we doing for dinner?" And then I immediately knew I made a mistake. So we're just guys. That's just a problem we have. It just happens.
And Natalie, you have to learn to counter that now by saying, "Well, where are you taking me for dinner?" Right?
Well, he's very good about that. He'll go, or am I ordering pizza?
Yes.
Yeah. Good stuff.
You two are going to get me in trouble.
Hey, no,
I'm attorney on the line too.
I'm telling you, Frank.
Everybody, we put everybody on the spot. I don't know how many times we put Doug Pascali on the spot for things. It's just what we do. And now I know you were talking about doing the things together, and I think it's amazing to have a couple that can do that, business-wise, especially.
Yes.
More so.
Yeah.
Actually. My wife and I, years ago, we talked about on other podcasts that we've had on this show. Brett and I used to do reenacting, Civil War reenacting. We were big into it, hardcore reenactors with doing special programs for National Park Service and things like that. We were very good with that, and we were big into that. But my wife also got into that with me. I did that for many years, and she eventually started going to some of the events to watch it, and then she got involved, and the next thing you know, she's very crafty with the sewing machine and everything else, and she started to make period dresses and clothing, men's clothing, and we were taking it to Gettysburg. We lived 25 minutes from Gettysburg, and she would make clothing, and some of the stores in Gettysburg were selling her clothing in their stores. She would make them for them, but she would love to go to the events, and it was special for us. Just like you were saying, when we would go to a reenactment or a special event together for a whole weekend, we got to spend that time together enjoying it, which was really, really cool. And we shared some aspect of the hobby together, but and you got to spend time with your wife. And I think that's really special that you have. A lot of people cannot say what you two have that way, which is awesome.
Something we think not to get too corny, but something that we feel as though we have a lot of couples don't have is, yes, I can rather call her my best friend.
Right.
So I think that's what makes everything click for us, which is nice. Kind of like you and your wife.
Right, sure. And there's times when we're not best friends. I'm just kidding.
Hell yeah!
But then that's what even your best friends when you were growing up. There's times when you're not as good of friends, but at the end of the day, you resolve all your problems. Now, hey, I'm gonna get off the. This isn't gonna turn into like the Dr. Phil relationship show here, but I have some questions about the different things I've seen on your website, which I found interesting, and I've not seen, correct me if I'm wrong, I've not seen this anywhere else, and this is interesting. You guys have a Z-scale Craftsman kit. Am I right?
We do. We did a kit. We collaborated, which was very, very nice of him to do it, with James Powell a couple of months back.
Oh, yeah.
It's called Powell. It's called Powell's Mining and Munitions. We offered that in N scale and HO scale, and when some of the Z scale guys, I forget what show it was, saw it, they were saying, I'd really love to buy one of those in Z scale. So we put it on our big boy panties, and we decided to try one kit in Z scale, hoping that it would have skyrocketed, because when we go out to shows and there's Z scale there, the guys were always saying, "Oh, can you do one of those in Z scale? Can you do one of those in Z scale? Oh, I can sell a lot of these." Well, we did one in Z scale, and it turned. I think we sold 2 or 3, honey?
3 of them.
Yeah, three of them. So it wasn't a big sell. We still offer it. We're going to continue to offer it.
Yeah.
Right.
But,
So.
But it's not. I was surprised. It wasn't a big seller.
Well, I didn't mean to bring up anything. A sort of subject with it, but I was interested in it only because, like, I didn't know the sales about it. I'm not sure about that part of the hobby. Like, Z-scale to me is probably very niche compared to how niche we are within our bigger hobby. But
Sure.
I was more interested in, I'm sure that was a challenge. You were saying want to put your big boy pants on and figure out how to do that. Obviously like windows and doors, shingles, that's all different from what we're used to, and it's definitely probably not available. So I'm guessing most of it you guys had to engineer on your own, right?
Well, I'm going to let Natalie answer that because I just said, let's do this in T-scale, and she made it happen.
All right.
Go ahead.
So it's a matter of sizing everything down the same way you do with HO to N or size up from N to HO. I sized down from N to Z scale.
Yeah.
So, yes, we had to produce our own shingles because we wouldn't even know where to look for them. And we had to size the whole building down. And when I gave it to Frank to build, he went, holy crap, this is really small.
Wow, I see it sitting in the palm of his hands on your website, and wow, that's insane. And, I don't honestly know if there are any people out there at all, anywhere making, I don't know enough about Z-Scale. If there's anybody making actual Craftsman kits for Z-Scale, is there?
I've looked around, and I honestly couldn't find any.
There's
there
some
are
plastic
a lot of German
ones.
manufacturers that produce Z-Scale, but nothing, not in wood Craftsman kits, no.
Right. Wow. And the N Craftsman kits, I mean, are there many of them either? Because you were one of the first I've seen, and what you've done with them, to look at that, to see the N scale version of an HO scale in Craftsman kits, it's astonishing that you're able to produce the same quality of detail to your kits. You'd think there would be less detailed showing as a result of that. I think,
to defend what they were saying earlier, Dad, I think maybe 20 or 25 years ago that would be the case, but now the precision of printing these things or cutting these things with lasers is wildly different than it was 2-3 decades ago. So, it's startling when you see them in person, though, I will say, because, at least for us, because, we're used to seeing everything almost double the size.
Sure.
And N scale, when you see the same building on a smaller scale, you're like, oh boy, I struggled with that railroad crossing shack that I built in HO. I couldn't imagine doing that with N. And that's something else I wanted to ask you about, Frank. When you're working with N scale and you go up to HO or you go back and forth, do you find it hard to work on the smaller and go back up or back and forth? Or does that mess with you at all? Or do you prefer one scale over the other for part sizes or anything like that?
My wife is actually giggling right now because she knows that when we first started producing our first HO scale kit, because people fell in love with what we were doing in N scale, and they said, well, when are you can you do this in HO? So we both talked it over, and I'll explain a little bit more later on, but we both talked it over. She produced, I think it was the Mercantile, which was the first kit we ever did. We did it in HO scale, and it took me a while to adjust to the size difference because I'm thinking, my God, compared to N scale, this looks like G scale or garden trailer.
I need a tractor trailer to move this kit around in my house.
It took me a while to get used to HO scale because I was always used to doing it, in half the size.
Right.
So to answer your question, yes, it was difficult. I will only build HO scale for, say, a customer. We don't do our displays in HO scale. One, to save room in our boxes when we travel. Yeah. And two, it's just that I really, truly love. I'm passionate about N scale, and that's the scale I work in. That's the scale I love.
It's funny. It's funny to hear you talk bad the other direction, like N to HO, because most people that we've talked with, obviously, and you've been around our show and our pages for a while, we go HO and people talk about going down to N scale and they're like, nah, no way, I can't see it, I can't do that, it's too small. So you're the opposite. You're like, no way, that's too big and bulky and no, I don't need any of that. The other thing I didn't think about this is when you go to these shows, you have an advantage because all your stuff for displays, like you said, is smaller. Like your packaging and everything else is half the size of all these other HO guys that have their kits out on display.
That's 100% correct. We got when we go to we've got 47 kits, 47 different displays out at every show, and we're just going to release our 48th and 49th in the next 2 weeks.
Nice.
Doing it all in HO scale, I would have to probably rent 6 or 7 tables to actually display them all.
And they wouldn't fit in my Nissan Pathfinder.
Well, I'll tell you what, you put a couple photos up on Facebook of all the stuff you pack. I don't know when that was, a while back, of all your tubs full of stuff. I can't imagine moving with, whether it's HO or N or whatever scale. I can't imagine taking all that and packing it up and getting it ready. It's a lot of work for those shows. And I know you spend a lot of time getting prepared for it, especially like Springfield last week. So, that's incredible that you're able to keep everything organized and in those boxes. And so even in N scale, you had a ton of stuff in those crates. So, and a bunch of them. So it's, impressive.
Well, that's our goal, to make sure that we always have the kits in stock when the orders come in, so that this way our customers are not waiting for their orders. So
Right.
I work very diligently to cut kits almost every single night and on the weekends to make sure that we keep those kits in stock.
Right.
It's when Frank releases a new one that it kind of throws me for a loop sometimes.
So
Yes,
now,
gentlemen, this is why I married her.
oh boy, I can't believe the incredible amount of detail I was saying earlier, and then we went down a rabbit hole that I'm seeing on your particular. I've seen other N scale kits, okay, from other manufacturers and stuff. I've not seen this level of detail on this of the Craftsman kit nature, and I think that's what sets you apart from everything I have seen out there on N scale. Are there many other N scale producers of Craftsman kits? I don't want you to name any names. We're not giving them any airtime here. I just know, are there many of them out there, or are there others out there?
Similar to what we do, there's maybe 1 or 2 tops for N scale.
Yeah, and I know Bar Mills does some, yes. And we wanted to start a company. See, for 30 years, I'll tell you the truth, 30 years, I was watching the HO scale guys get all these beautiful Craftsman kits to build. And, I'm thinking to myself, wow, that would be a great kit in N scale. Let me give these guys a call. Well, you would call them up, and, one guy actually said no and hung up on me, which was amazing. And even when I would offer them to pay the HO scale price, the answer was always no. So I says, all right, through the years, I said to myself, you know what, one day maybe when I meet the right woman, I'm just going to start a company and I'm going to make my own N scale Craftsman kits. And that's what I wound up. Well, that's the reason why I did it. Right.
And forgive my manners. Thank you for that compliment. That was very nice of you. But I don't really, or we don't really do anything special to make the kits that way. I enjoy personally when I'm building them. I want to set our kits aside from everybody else's by simply adding colors, layers, and the details and the textures.
Yes.
To every kit that we do. There's 1 or 2 that I might have been sick when I was detailing it and just wasn't into the kit. Trust me, there's 1 or 2 of those.
We all have one of those.
I wanted to set us aside from other N scale people who do, 4 walls and a couple of doors and a window.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's got, your kits have that, that extra dimension, different roof lines, different, outbuildings or whatever you want to call them, jut outs and such on them, different shapes to the kits, and that's something that you don't always get with something. And I know, and I know when you're putting a display on your page, you know a lot of that is how you model. I mean, I've seen people buy Doug Fiscali HO scale kit that he puts a picture on his thing that he modeled, and we know how good a modeler he is. It's going to look awesome on his page, right? That's the idea. I mean, that's why I bought a lot of the ones I have from him, because I said, oh, well, that's amazing. I want to build one like that, right? But you know, but that's what it's going to take, and you can buy the same kit, and it may not, and build it. It may not look that way. It's based on that skill that you have. But you're showing people on yours, you're able to show them, hey, you can do this on N scale. You can put the layers on and the textures on and show the, your wear and tear, your weathering, that type of thing. Make it look to where it's not just a brand new spanking fresh painted building, right?
Right.
So you've learned to show the artistry in your work, and that it can be done for N scale, and that's a huge feather in your cap for that niche of the hobby in the N scale, because
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, because it's something you're actually doing what you would do for business to draw people to what you're doing, to say, hey, I can do this. You can do this if you really work with it, right?
One of the things that frustrates me at the shows is you get any age group will come up to the booth, and they'll say, this work is beautiful in N scale. I could never do this. So I kind of got tired of listening to people say they can't do it when I'm telling them that they can, that it's super easy. I tell them to start watching the Jason Jensen videos. Jason's a very nice person. We talk every now and then. And we consider him a good friend. He just recently built one for us, but I don't want to diverse, but he's awesome. And what we did is I asked Natalie to make me some small kits. It was just a plastic bag filled with a pair of tweezers, a paintbrush, a single wall, and a window and a door. Then I showed people how to stain and how to paint and create the same effects that we were getting. And in one day, I think we sat,
25 people.
25 people the first day and another 30-something the second day. And it was one-on-one at our booth. And people loved that interaction. They saw how easy it could possibly be. Yeah. And it was nice because people send us photos all the time now saying, what do you think of this? What do you think, does it look anything like yours? Just don't copy mine. Just do your own thing and what you're happy with.
Right.
It's your building.
And then some of them will come to the booth now and they'll say, oh, Frank, what you showed me worked. I can't believe it. And then they'll show us pictures of what they made. And they're so happy that he's able to teach them how to do stuff.
That's probably the most rewarding part of it, is not even like selling them a kit, is actually like watching them learn and develop a new skill and get better at building models. Not even the sales are always nice, but when you have someone come back to you and say, man, look what I did with this. You taught me how to do that. Like that's the best part.
Yep.
Absolutely.
We have friends on Facebook that follow us religiously. And they say, hey, would you mind if I copied this in G scale or O scale? And when you tell them yes, and you get that picture back, and you're right, we're in this to make money, but at the same time, we're in it to watch people enjoy what we do.
Right.
And there's no feeling like it in the world. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I have found that, and I'm sure there's facets of it, and someone will probably point out that there are parts of it that are not this way, but I've found that the model craftsman community is pretty like easygoing and very giving as far as knowledge and like the camaraderie of just doing work and encouraging people to do better work and kind of helping other people. You don't see that in a lot of hobbies. I mean, my dad and I have been in our handful of hobbies together, and I have my own little things on the side of other than modeling, and it's one of the few things where like yes, there's businesses. Yes, they want to make money, but even those businesses, like, they don't have any problem showing you how to do everything. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a bunch of people,
Yeah.
men and women, sharing a similar interest, which is
And
always a good thing.
what's really neat, and you've probably experienced this, we're only going to tell.
Sounds like a circus at your house, Brett.
I can't even tell you what's happening upstairs. I don't want to go upstairs. It's something bad just happened. But there was a scream.
I heard kids and dogs. That's all I know. I heard kids
who
and
knows?
dogs.
I apologize for any dogs noises right now. But what is
That's
really
okay. Let them bark.
what is really cool? Well, we have a corgi and a coonhound mix. So like, there's a big dog and a little dog, and it sounds like they're waging war upstairs. So. But anyways, what I was saying was, and if I'm wrong, I'll eat my words and I'll put my foot in my mouth. But I'm interested to hear, you got support from obviously your fans and your customers, but like starting a business in this hobby, it seems like there's also pretty good support from a lot of not all of them. We don't need to talk about the ones that don't support, but you get support from other model builders or other model companies in this hobby as well. Am I right?
I have to tell you, I'll be 100% honest with you. Yes, we travel with what we call our traveling family, the Craftsman Courtyard.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like a tribe.
With them for a little bit. Yep.
Yeah, you guys were there. I actually met you guys in Timonium. You guys were building a structure on the end. Yeah. We would not be where we are today without the honest and heartfelt advice from Stephen Milley of Railscale Models, and the support that he's given us, from the start.
He's awesome.
He shared basically everything that he knew in the hobby and had told us flat out what to do. And all we simply did was listen to this man, and he has become seriously one of our best friends as a result of this, and continues to support us and continues to help with things, and we help him on occasion with stuff. He's just an awesome human being. He seriously was. Kudos to him. And I'll say it again, Stephen Milley at Railscale Models, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, we had Stephen on our show a long time ago. It was actually, I think, when he right after or right around when he acquired RDA. Railway Design Associates, I think. One of those companies.
Yep.
And, man, the things he was talking about just getting... And this was probably 5-6 years ago. Just things he was into and helping with. And it was amazing then. So I can only imagine how busy he is now.
Well, he was working a lot with Carolina Craftsman Kits, too.
Yeah.
Helping out with that.
Jeff Grove.
Jeff Grove and
Jeff
cutting
Grove,
for him and everything else. So, yeah. And I think that's awesome. Sorry, go ahead.
The other people that we travel with there's Jeff with Motrack Models, Micro Lumina, Bill and Lisa, Ron Class from Mind Mount Models, Chris Corse from Conowingo. It's just seriously a good group of families.
Yeah, well, maybe not that Bill guy. I don't know about that Bill. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, Bill.
Yeah, we busted Bill pretty much, Mr. M&M's. And
we love Bill.
I'm just joking, Bill. We haven't talked to him in a while, but I know it's everyone.
We need to get to one of the shows and set up a table again like we did for one of the Craftsman Courtyard things, and we'll talk to them about that. But yeah, you're right. The community is very tight with the manufacturers in the Craftsman kit world. It's a very close knit group of people, and I've been with them. I've had beers with them at the shows. Brett and I both been to the expos when they used to have the expos going on, and the last one being in Albany when they used to do the fine scale craftsman show up there, and same deal. I mean, awesome. They're all together in a room, and at the end of the night, well, we did that in Timonium too. We're we're in the hotel, and everybody's having dinner together, and a couple adult beverages, and a couple more, and it was always a wonderful, warm feeling. But And not just that, though. They included the modelers with that. So the modelers would be at the hotel, and they would be with us in the evenings, and got to share with us, and which was awesome because you got to meet new people. It's a great community. You're right. Yep. You said family,
It was an honor to be accepted into their community and to have them guide us to help us with our business, because they always had so much more experience than us, and they were all so welcoming. And honestly, I don't know what I would do without them.
Yeah.
So, back on your kits and stuff, there's some amazing ones. I'm staring at them right now. I love the big American flag on the side of Powell's Mining and Munitions. And that's pretty cool because every HO scale or any model scale flag I've seen look like corny garbage. And that looks realistic sitting on the side of that. Damn, that looks nice. And yeah, I think that's the awesome work you do. There's some amazing looking kits. I'm encouraging our readers to go there, our listeners to go there. It's mudcreekmodels.com, and it's 2 D's for the Mud Creek. So Mud double D Creek Models, right? And go there, check it out. Now on your site, you have other things for sale. It's not just structures. So you're talking here. I'm looking down the list. We got shingles. I didn't look at tools yet, but you also do 3D printed details. So, which is really, really cool. It seems to be a big portion of the hobby right now too, is 3D printed details. But you're able to produce some of these in N scale, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, we started 3D printing about a year and a half ago. We started with one printer. We're now up to 2 with a third one that's actually on order because we're having a problem keeping up with it because of the way we sell them at the shows. But yeah, I started learning 3D printing off of YouTube and, calling manufacturers from Frozen, who makes the printers, and just slowly but surely taught myself how to do 3D printing. And everything we do, including the design work and the slicing programs, is all done with 2 free programs, 3D Builder and ChuChuBox. Both of them are free programs that you can download. And it just took off from there. I think we've got probably over 200 or 200, I forget the number. It's over 200 different detail parts that we offer at the shows. Not all of it is on the website yet, but we offer that in N scale and HO scale.
It's absolutely incredibly cool to see that you're able to make kits. It's always been with kit manufacturers, the laser cut machines or laser cutters to make the kits. It's revolutionized model building for the
industry. For the industry.
Yeah. I'm sorry, for the hobby or the industry, right? It's revolutionized everything. Okay, but now you've learned how to master the laser cutter, or Natalie has, and I'm busting your toes, brother.
Corrected that.
And but now you're throwing in a 3D printer, and as Brett can attest to, because he has a 3D printer, it's something that needs to be crafted, and it's something that you have to learn the ins and outs of. It's not always the easiest thing to.
I'm really good at crates and barrels. I know that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to learn another skill set on top of just your laser cutters. So was that a big curve for all of you, or?
It was huge because I spend all day, my Monday through Friday is just on a computer, and then to come home and instead of building, you're actually back on the computer designing. It was difficult for me for a little while.
Yeah.
But then after a while, I just learned to take, just take a barrel instead of putting 1 on the screen, put 2 on the screen and turn it around. And flip different parts, get some other things that you've already designed, put them in there, and make it, make a new detail part out of it.
Right.
So it was a learning curve, but it was one that we really wanted to do because, again, we wanted to offer those 3D parts and those detail parts not only to be sold separately, but to also be put in the kit, because to me, 3D parts or any detail part is just another dimension or another texture that you're adding to the product.
Right.
Right.
I gotta ask, because I don't think I've ever asked this question. We had a couple people talk about detail parts and printing them. How hard is... You know what? I'm going to change my question. What was the hardest detail part to nail and get right? Because I think I'm looking at it, but I want to know what, like, if there was a detail part where you're like, man, that one was just a pain in the ass to figure out how to get it to print right.
That would be my N-scale barrels.
Oh, really?
Especially the hull. I make them. Some have covers which are solid. The other ones have the center. There's nothing in the center of it, so people can put their own pieces of garbage or lumber in there to make it look like it's actually being used. That had to be the most difficult one.
Okay.
Wow. Because it's hollow? Is that why?
Yeah, because I had to teach myself how to scale it properly down, because forgetting that there's no center to it anymore, the walls are going to get thinner as you scale it down. So it was a huge learning curve. I'm a little bit concerned though, Brett. Which one are you looking at that you don't like?
I like them all, but I was looking. I like them all. It's the right answer. But I would have thought that, and this is probably just me being like the novice 3D printer, and it's the problem. The thing I always have problem with is like I'm trying to find it again because I was scrolling around. Like anything that has a shelf where there's parts on the shelf, or like a pile of tires, I've tried to print them and they just fail on me more often than not. I have to print them a few times and mess around with supports and do whatever to get them to print right. But every time there's like a cove or like a weird angle that's just odd, it'll fail in a spot for me.
Huh, interesting. I make a stack of tires that has a lot of urns to it. It's they're in N scale and HO.
Yeah.
There's a lot of coves in there and stuff. And the Chitcher Box, the slicing program that I use, not to get too technical, allows you to scroll through each layer looking for those islands that are not supported.
It slices it each time.
Yeah. It's actually a slide bar on the side of the screen that you just grab it and slide down. And as you're sliding down, you're looking for that red dot.
Yeah.
Which is not supported by anything. That's when you throw a support in.
Okay. Now, see,
the way I do it. Anyway.
This is probably my fault because I have that Chutu box on my laptop, and I'm lazy.
Right.
And I only use the one that I use the software that came with the printer, and it's I know it's not great, but I just do it because it's the easiest one. So maybe I just need to stop being a lazy pile of you know what, and just put it through the Chutu box and do it the right way.
Anytime you have a question, feel free to call.
Yeah, I'll do a screen recording and show you how I'm slicing it. And anytime I do anything complicated, it just turns sour quick.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to take a look.
Yeah. Now I do have another question, and I know my dad was probably looking here too, but I want to know how you guys thought of doing the $10 kit in a bag. And like, what started that? Now, Brotman has one, which I'm sure is probably Craig's. Craig probably helped with that or designed that or whatever. But then there's a few other ones in there, and I love seeing the kits that people put out that are like the value kits. And I'm actually impressed by the second one on there, which I think is Brian's in. Yeah, like that's a stout little building for $10.
We have people, a lot of people come up that aren't always as well off as the next guy.
Right.
So these are the people who are on fixed incomes and the people who really want to try a Craftsman kit. And then we have children that come up and say, wow, that's really cool. Dad, I really want to get into this. Or Mom, you think you can get this for me? We did the $10 kit in the bag for those people who want to do a Craftsman kit and simply don't always have the funds with them or the means by which to pay, which I'll leave it at that.
It also works out for the person that's looking for the little tiny structure for the area in their layout that they want something there, but they can't find something small.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
it turned out to be a really big seller.
Gotcha. I love that. And I actually love the idea that you're catering to multiple audiences or multiple customer types with that kit, because like you said, some people might not have the means to do it, but they want to get started. They're afraid to do it and buy a $75 kit and screw it up. But they might learn like, oh no, I can do this, and it's $10. And if I can't figure it out, it's $10. But if I do really well, now I'm hooked, and I want to do another one, so I'm gonna buy a bigger, more in-depth kit. That. Also,
exactly.
Also, the thing that you said was key there was kids. And I love, and my dad probably loves seeing this too, when kids get into doing a Craftsman kit. We actually did a clinic down at Blue Ridge Summit, PA, across from Mainline Hobby, across the street from Mainline, at a firehouse.
Okay.
And we must have had 40 kids in there doing little Craftsman kits. And that was the coolest thing. That was the coolest
Jeff was there that day.
Yeah, that was the coolest little clinic we ever did.
Yep. It was fun to watch the kids build it. And Jeff Grove was the one that supplied all the stuff. And it turned out, it was pretty cool to see the kids' enthusiasm as they did it. It's something Jeff did at that show all the time by providing the small kits. And the kids were having a ball. So, yeah, it's awesome to be able to do that.
And to be honest, Jeff had a ball because he was just there being a kid as well. So
yeah, right.
Jeff is good people.
Yes. But you hit that nail on the head too. Just like obviously people have different affordabilities as far as what they can budget for to buy, and kids, because I think it is cool when you see a younger kid getting into building models. Like every kid builds a model, I think, at some point. Most kids do. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of them do, whether it's a car or whatever it is. And that does spark some sort of creativity in them to do something like that. And it's neat that you're setting that bar really low for pretty much anyone to be able to get their hands on it, which is awesome.
You have to keep this awesome hobby going.
Yeah.
A $10 kit in a bag to me is just something you would hand out to a kid that says, I want to get involved in this hobby.
Yeah.
I really want to try a kit. We had one time, true story, we had one time a mom and her son. You could tell that mom wasn't, all that well off, and she was there because her son wanted to come see trains. And he had told his mother right in front of me, and it kind of got me in the heart. This is, Mom, I really wish that we could afford this. Well, if you looked at the mom was looking at me, and she kind of was getting choked up.
Yeah.
And I told the mom, I says, do you mind if I gift this to your son? I'll give him the kit and a bottle of glue, but the kid has to work for it for me. So she says, well, what do you mean? So the little boy looks at me and says, yeah, mister, what do you mean? So I told him, I said, you have to promise me, I said, that you're going to do your homework first and then play with this kit. And when you're done building the kit, you give it to me and I will post it on my website.
Nice.
Well, this kid thought this was like the bomb. So he actually did it. We posted it for 24 hours, and I sent his mom. I says, please show it to him. It's on the website. And he thought it was the greatest thing. And he's actually doing plastic models now of structures, which is kind of cool. Something that mom can hopefully afford. So it's a $10 kit in a bag, and for what it costs us, you hand it out for free, for God's sakes, for the little ones.
Yeah.
And you got some big kits too. I'm looking at them right now. You got some really nice big kits, and this is something, another avenue that I see. Now, the Bishop's Bourbon Mill is amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
But you have that looks something along the lines of what you would see in some of the manufacturers that make HO scale, yearly, special edition models and such. So that's a pretty cool kit. And you also have, but your prices on these kits are in a nice, fair price range. I mean, that's a good size. Jensen's, for example, is a good size building in N scale, obviously, but it's $60, and really that's a good medium place to have a kit price for your average modeler or fine scale structure modeler. But I think you keep it in a reasonable range, and it's impressive to see. But you have a kit for just about every budget, and that's pretty cool.
If you don't, you're not succeeding not only in the hobby but as a businessman.
Right. So now a question for Natalie.
Okay.
You cut these things and you make up the kits and you box all this crap and put it together for the show and all that, right? And have you ever built one?
I have not ever built one.
Have you had the desire to build one? Or are you sick of seeing them?
No, I'm not sick of seeing them. I designed 2 of them, but I haven't actually built any.
Oh, you designed 2? That's awesome. So, oh, that's very cool. Now, can you tell us which ones?
Yes, I designed Park Row, and I designed Ring Railway.
I'm looking for it right now. But
so Park Row is our only backdrop building.
I see.
That was cool. I saw that. Okay.
And we were at a show, and I had like 4 people come up to us and say, "Do you have any backdrop buildings?" And of course, at the time, our answer was no. And we went home that night, and I said, "I'm going to design one." So I did.
Oh wow! Yeah, it looks good. And so you haven't built one? Are you? I convinced my wife to build one time, and she did a real good job. It was one of Jeff Grove's kits, one of his many. I guess he had a general store. He's done a bunch of general stores, and I got a kit for her and let her build it, and she thoroughly enjoyed it. She's never built one since. But I was just curious if you have tried it or if you have had an interest in trying to build one. But
I could never build it as good as Frank does. He's such a master at it, and he has such an artful eye for it that I'd be a little bit intimidated to be in competition with him.
Oh, you wouldn't make it a competition, would you, Frank?
Oh no, not me.
I'm calling bullshit on that one, but that's just, you do have some amazingly interesting structures. It's a great job you've done with it and with the hobby and giving the N scale community and now the HO scale community an option that now they don't have to call and have somebody. The guy hung up on you for real? He said, "What an ass."
Yeah, that's a true story. He basically, I told him right after I said I'd be willing to pay the HO scale price. I'll never forget it. I'd be willing to pay the HO scale price if you just do one for me in N scale. No, hung up the phone.
Oh my God!
Clearly, he was having a bad day.
Yeah. Come on.
Wild.
I mean, at least be. If you're not going to do it, just say, you know what? Well, I'm sorry, but I'm not really set up to do that. Blah 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 blah. Right? Come up with something, but don't be ignorant about it. What if you were a guy that said, you know what? I'm going to do N and HO skill. Now you're never going to buy shit from him again, right? So because that's how he was. What a shame.
Exactly.
I think the kicker was I think what the kicker was that made us start the business was one of the last train shows that Frank and I went together to. And he had been walking around and seeing all these beautiful kits and was very disappointed when he would ask the manufacturers if they would make it in N scale.
Right.
And I had said to him, I'm like, why don't you do it? Why don't we do it together? Because this is crazy. You want all these beautiful kits and they're out there, but they won't make them for you. Why don't we find a way to make them ourselves? And that was when we both sat down and went, okay, well, we're moving first. We can't do anything until we move. And then we slowly when we bought our house, we made half of our basement into our business.
Oh boy.
Right. Now, do you run off of
similar to what I did when we just moved into a new house back in April, and within about a month and a half, about half my basement was all modeling and workshop again. So I feel you. But I intentionally made a big basement for the same reason. I'm sure you guys did too. You were looking for something specific so you could handle what you needed to do if that was what your goal was.
Exactly. Yes. Yep. Exactly.
Now when you now you do the laser cut machines, obviously. You said you started on a Cricut?
I did. I started cutting on a Cricut.
Wow. And how was that? How difficult was that? Was it to
I found it wasn't as efficient as the laser. I guess it was a good starting point for the first couple of kits because they were more basic kits.
Yeah.
But as Frank's designs grew and we needed more accuracy and smaller details, smaller, windows and smaller doors and things like that. We needed something that was going to cut more precise and I guess faster because it was taking a long time on the Cricut. And
I was going to say it had to. Wow.
It was taking a longer time, and there was a lot more errors per se. Like the wood would get stuck; it wouldn't cut through all the way. It would shut off in the middle because we were basically overpowering it. Requesting more than it was able to do, I guess.
Yeah, you were overusing the thing, or you were, you probably were, burning it out. I mean, or so I can't imagine that it would. I'm sure if you were producing a bunch of kits, it would have taken a long time to get that done. And so now do you have just one laser cutter? Is that what you're using, or you use like several, or?
And we have two lasers that we I use, and I run them both at the same time.
Okay. Yeah, then that makes sense, and that would obviously be the way to go. I mean, I think I'm fascinated by it. We sat in at one of the shows. Brett and I were there. They did a video. Actually, it was Jeff Grove did a video slideshow and a video on. Demonstrating how the laser cutter works and everything else, and how the ins and outs of doing laser cutting, and it was absolutely fascinating, and the care and the cleaning that you need to do to keep them kept, and then when they break down, what you have to go through to get parts and replace them. It's a fascinating piece of machinery. It's even more fascinating to watch it with your naked eye.
Mesmerizing.
It's mesmerizing. Yeah. I'm jealous that I don't have one, but Brett and I talked about this. We never want to do what you do. I couldn't even imagine. I don't have that patience as it is, or that kind of time. But I think it's so. I have more fun buying your kits and stuff and building them than I would ever do that. That's just too much for me. I admire the hell out of the fact that you guys can do what you've done and built your business and your website. And I've seen you grow, Frank. I've seen this business of yours. I've seen when you first when you first got back into it and the modeling part of it to where you've gone to where you're at today. And I'm impressed. It really is. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to get in touch with you too, is about this, is because we've not seen this with N scale, and then to see it in the short amount of time it took you. When you think about that, you said you started 2017?
No,
back into modeling.
Actually, coming back into modeling was probably that show that you were talking about up in Albany, the Craftsman show.
Wow, that's even less time. So we're talking 2018. That was 2018, I remember. You were at the Albany show?
We were there. Actually, I think it was that Saturday or Sunday. I don't remember. But yeah.
Okay. Yes, I had a table set up there. Brett was running a 100-mile race at that weekend. And that's interesting because that's 2018 to 2025 right now, the beginning of 2025. So we're talking, 6 years. Wow. Yeah. That you were able to go you've been able to do this in 6 years. I'm impressed. I give you all the kudos in the world to both of you for being able to do that.
So now my real question is, and this will be my last question, is what do you do for modeling on your own for fun? Like, I'm sure that's been brought up too, but like, do you have a layout? Do you have a small place where you're putting dioramas right now? Because obviously this takes up a lot of your time too, but do you have your own hobby within this part of the hobby?
Like Natalie had mentioned before, half the basement is our business. It's our hobby room.
Yeah.
The other half is our den, and we have a full-size bar down here and a laundry room, blah, blah, blah. But my intent is sometime this year is to start a shelf layout around the top of or up by the ceiling.
Oh.
And to do that either in N scale or HO scale.
Okay.
Real cool.
But currently we do not have a layout. What do I do to enjoy the hobby? I have two hobbies. One is model railroading, whether it be building structures for the business or just going to shows or going to museums. We both thoroughly enjoy that.
Right.
My other hobby is Natalie. I enjoy her too. And it all comes together. I mean, it's like the perfect life right now.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah. We're impressed.
Hey, so I think it's cool that you want to do a N scale or a HO scale, either one, around the perimeter or shelf area of a room. And I always thought it would be cool to not have like the Lionel train style one. You know what I'm talking about, where it's just a train that's like suspended on a weird track that goes around through the holes in the walls. But to do, everyone knows what I'm talking about. Everyone's seen that train. Seen it. But to have one lower, like at eye level, where you can actually see the detail, but you don't need to build a deep layout. You just have to build it long and have like like a craftsman style layout, but one that is like what you're talking about, Frank. That would be wild to see that. That'd be really cool. And you don't have to worry about building deep. You can build it almost like little dioramas at a time.
Yes, exactly. And it'll be a shelf layout. It's probably going to be about 50 to 55 inches off the floor.
That's awesome.
It'll probably be no deeper than 12 to 15 inches. And I plan on having it be a point to point and roughly 50, 55 feet long.
That
cool.
That will be cool. And it's like a conversation piece too. It's a neat little, it's a tension. It brings attention to itself because it's just a unique little addition to your room, especially if it's in like a bar scene. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, I just had.
You just put an idea in that set. I feel it.
The bar is always open for you guys and your families anytime you want.
All right.
Oh, I'll have to take you up on that sometime. I might actually be traveling up there within the next year. So, but it's now 12 to 15 inches wide. You can put a lot of detail into something in that with N scale too, which is
you definitely could. Yes, you definitely could.
Yeah,
so, a lot of depth. So
yeah. Are you getting an idea on this, Brett?
Yeah.
is your
I
anniversary?
figured that. He's going to build a family room. I can see this. You got to remember, you have good dogs and kids, and things going to get thrown up there and hit and everything else. I'm not trying to shoot down. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
No. Listen. I already took up a third of the basement with this. I can't. Not yet.
Yeah,
I gotta slowly work my way. We just built a house, so everything's like new. So I'm afraid to touch anything. But we are gonna finish part of the basement, so maybe I can squeak in something like that in the finished basement. Who knows? But
There you go. There you go.
It's been a pleasure talking with you. We're going to bring it to a close. It was awesome to talk to you and Natalie about this. We got the wife's perspective on this, who is also a partner in the business, and I think it's amazing what you both do and that you enjoy together. And it's a plus for the hobby.
I'm also not going to lie. I'm hungry for pierogies right now because I've been staring at this Babinski's Pierogies building for like an hour because I think that's my favorite building just because of the name. But
then I'll tell you what. What Brett? You're HO scale, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to gift you. A Babinski's. We're going to gift you Babinski's pierogies.
Okay.
After we hang up, if you could just send me a text message with your address.
Okay.
I'll make sure that it gets in the mail by Monday or Tuesday next week.
Oh, well, hey, you don't have to do that, but I appreciate it. And that is I'm a soft spot for pierogies and pizza anyways. Like, that's like my favorite foods. So I was immediately drawn to that. But we will do it justice, and like we'll make sure we send you some pictures and stuff of it too. But again, thank you. You guys didn't have to do that.
Of course, absolutely. You guys just became friends tonight. We appreciate you taking the time.
Awesome. Hey, I appreciate you guys giving us an hour of your time, a little over an hour. But I think we're going to call it a show. This was a great one, and I appreciate you guys both for coming on.
Thank you very much for having us.
All right.
You keep him in line, Natalie. That's before we talk next. You got to keep him in line.
Yeah, because I have a funny feeling he's trouble. Yeah.
Brett, don't piss me off. I didn't.
Oh, no. It just got rescinded. The offer's rescinded. All righty. Cool. All right.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
All righty. You bet.
Good night.
Bye-bye.